News just coming in. New Delhi's strong stance against those racist attacks in Australia proving to be yielding some sort of results. We're getting news in an attempt to create some sort of damage control here. The Australian government has set up a special task force to coordinate Australia's response to the violence against Indian students. The Indian High Commissioner Sujata Singh and the Consul Generals in Mumbai and Sydney also will be meeting with the Australian Deputy Vice-Chancellors to discuss the safety and well-being of the Indian students. There's this meeting that's been planned, a clear indication of how much of an embarrassment this is to the Australian government. And clearly here we're also been telling you right now that a task force is being set up in order to look at the spate of attacks that have taken place in Australia. And just let's quickly look into what Stephen Smith, the Foreign Affairs Minister, is saying here. He's saying that this task force by the Australian government shows its resolve to play its part in its collaboration with the states to respond to this very serious issue. Australia takes it very seriously, its reputation as a safe destination for international students. So clearly here, Australia in damage control. Australia here setting up a task force to look at these series of attacks that have taken place in Australia. And let's get you some reaction now to this story from India.
If anything to be done from the legal department, we will not hesitate to take any action. We will have to do certain proactive things, which the External Affairs Ministry is doing it. And, I will also make an inquiry, and of course anything could be done on the legal side, we will definitely step up.
And let's get you more perspective on this. Madhav joining us with more. Madhav, clearly here we heard Veerappa Moily there. The pressure being stepped up. We've seen that a task force is now set into place, but is this enough?
Absolutely. In fact, this task force that's been set up is quite clearly aimed at trying to quell at some level or the other this kind of violence that has been perpetrated against Indian students. You must remember, at some level or the other, this is something that the Australian government perhaps would find very difficult to handle if the Indian students, who constitute a large portion of the international students who go to Australia, if this was to affect that inflow. Certainly, of course, that is one worry. Also, another implication is that as far as the diplomatic pressure is concerned, that the Indian government has been trying to step up against the Australian government, trying to put up the pressure, saying that we will not tolerate these kind of attacks. That has been going on for some time now, the past week or so, that these attacks have been reported, and that's certainly something that's that is showing with the Australian government putting up this task force to coordinate Australia's response. The Australian government also perhaps trying to send out a signal that it is trying to stem this menace in the bud, and that's really something that comes out of this entire episode. But right now, what we can tell you is that the Indian government too, the Law Minister telling at times now that as far as India is concerned, certainly there's going to be an attempt to look at the various legal options that are open before it to try and prevent these attacks from happening.
Thanks very much indeed, Madhav, with that breaking news coming in. Australia setting up a task force to look into this recent spate of violence against Indians down under.